Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Indian Business and Professional Council, IBPC, a warm welcome to all of you for today's session, Startups with a Scale-Up Mindset. Let me first introduce our moderator, Mr. Skandan Mahalingam. Ramesh, as we all know him, is the convener of the Investment Forum of IBPC. A long timer of Dubai, he brings with him 35 years experience in finance and investments covering various sectors. He advises tech startups on business excellence and fundraising strategies. He was an assessor of the prestigious MRM Awards and has received several awards for public speaking, finance training sessions, and active participation in business forums. Mr. Mahalingam is a chartered accountant and holds a GMP from IIM Ahmedabad. To take the session further and introduce to our speakers, over to you, Mr. Mahalingam.
Thank you, Sibi, for that exhilarating introduction. A very good morning, IBPC Chairman, Mr. Suresh Kumar, board members of IBPC, particularly our newly inducted governing board members, Mr. Paras Shadad Puri, Mr. Surinder Singh Kandhari, Mr. Siddharth Balachandran, and Mr. Sunil Sinha, conveners of all focus groups and forums of IBPC, fellow members at IBPC, invitees, and a very warm welcome to our panel speakers for agreeing to come and speak to us to share their experiences and insights. I am super excited to get started and hence want to dive straight in. But first, a fact. The world sees about 1.35 million tech startups. You heard it right. 1.35 million tech startups being born every year. This equates to 3,600 startups every single day. A whopping number, isn't it? It looks like the entire world is busy only creating tech startups. Not surprising, therefore, that in my professional life, I come across many, many startups, almost one every working day. From among all of them, I have handpicked 3 for you today to get a glimpse of the world of startups from. Before we get started with them, let's get through this important question. What is a tech startup? Briefly, a tech startup is a company that uses technology to develop and validate a scalable business model. And in nearly all cases, it involves the use of the internet. The 2 most important things about tech startup, I think, are 1, that they are scalable business models, meaning that as they grow and their revenues increase at a fast and furious pace, their costs don't grow as fast, or in some cases, don't grow at all. And that's made possible by technology. And that's the true meaning of scalability. And secondly, the fact that they have high rates of failure is very well known. However, those that succeed, that do succeed, become large and influential. They become household names. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, Uber, and a whole host of them are all tech startups that have since scaled up. Now, coming to Dubai, in the era of declining oil prices ever since 2015, Dubai has established itself as the destination for tech startups. Careem, Souk.com, Noon.com, Beehive, and many others are examples of Dubai's homegrown tech startups. With its can-do attitude, starting right from the very top, and with the right infrastructure, coupled with a supportive environment, Dubai allows people from all nationalities to set up and grow their dream tech ventures. And in today's panel, we shall hear from 3 expats who have done just that. We shall get introduced to each of our 3 panelists, or 4 panelists of our 3 tech ventures, I should say, in turn within the next few minutes. The panel discussion will be followed by a Q&A session. Members, kindly ask your questions in the chat window from where I shall pick them up for the panel to respond. And please get started with your questions early in the discussion and do not wait for the Q&A section of the seminar. When typing out your questions, you may wish to name the panelist to whom the question is directed. If not, I shall do the needful for you. And we shall try and keep the session informal and conversational so that you derive the maximum benefit and enjoyment from this coming hour. And so, without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. Each of them has a long list of impressive achievements. And if I were to do full justice to their bios, it would keep us from hearing them. So I'm going to select only the top highlights. Yeah? Let's get started with A for Aladdin. Mr. Subra Das. I've known him for several years now. I first met him as a fellow investment committee member on a private equity fund in Dubai. He is the founder and CEO of Aladdin. He is a lifelong telecom company C-suite executive and has worked in multiple countries, helping multiple telecom companies get started up. Yeah, Nigeria, Egypt, India, Saudi, UAE, and so forth. In UAE, notably, he was in the C-suite of Do Telecom and helped Do get off the ground in a very big way that we know it today. He holds a BE in civil engineering from Delhi and an MBA postgraduate management from IIM Ahmedabad and an advanced management program from the Harvard Business School. So please welcome Shubhra with a clap and a thunder. Next, we introduce E for Eduployment. I'm just going in alphabetic order. Mr. Mazen Omer is the CEO and co-founder of Eduployment together with his wife, Dr. Rana Batterjee. I'll come to her in a minute. Eduployment is a tech company focused on alleviating poverty through education and employment of blue-collar workers. I shall not steal his thunder. I shall leave him to describe more of it, but more about him now. Mazen brings in 30 plus years in entrepreneurial and leadership roles in various sectors, such as IT, retail, F&B, franchising, and distribution. He is an active member of the Entrepreneurs Organization in Dubai and has served or is probably still serving on the UAE chapter's board of directors of the EO. He's also co-founder of Momer Trading, a UAE-based company that holds the franchise rights for Subway and owns Sugarfield and Company. His prior employments include key positions in multinationals such as IBM and I2, that's Ittisalat International. He holds a bachelor's and MSc in zoology and MSc in IT, Information Systems Technology from George Washington University. Please help us welcome Mazen Omer to this forum. Dr. Rana Batterjee is the Chief Purpose Officer. Honestly, it's the first time I came across this exotic title. Kudos to you, Rana. And co-founder of Eduployment and the VP and co-founder of Momari Trading. She's an accomplished audiologist and has been active in increasing public awareness on hearing loss and assisting indigent patients. Now, this word indigent will play a role in her co-founding Eduployment. She worked with several clinics across the US, Saudi Arabia, and was director of the Cochlear Implant Center at American Hospital, Dubai. Dr. Batterjee holds a BA in Hearing and Speech Sciences from the University of Maryland, and then an MA in Audiology from George Washington University, and a doctorate in Audiology from the University of Florida. So they run Eduployment together as a couple. Please give Dr. Rana Batterjee a big round of applause. Then we come to Logisci, L for Logisci. Mr. C.M. Matthew. He's a chartered accountant and a member of the Institute of Company Secretaries. And I might add, having known him for a while now, he's an All India Merit List rank holder in the Chartered Accountancy Finals in All India. He brings 35 years of rich leadership experience. He founded and is the CEO of Logisci. Now, he's played a pivotal role in transforming Danzas into one of the leading logistics players in the region by developing new product lines for them and increasing their overall efficiency in his long tenure there. And prior to coming to Dubai, he's worked with reputed companies in India, notably in the electronics field. Please then give me a big round of applause to Matthew and to all our panelists. Let's get started with the panelists themselves. Let's first hear from each one of them as to what their tech startup does. What is their business model? How do they earn their revenues? And how they came up with the idea in the first place. Yeah. If all of this can be compressed in a short 3-minute window, you would have done your job, panelists. Let's start with, shall we go with Subra? Would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Ramesh, for the kind introduction. Very good morning to all who are attending this session. Thank you for spending your time with us. So Aladdin is essentially a marketplace for mobile and broadband services. So it's a one-stop shop for all the services and plans that the UAE telecom operators provide. So we host about hundreds and thousands of mobile plans, and we provide comparison engines, a lot of variety of tools that makes it easy for customers to kind of compare different services, different kind of rate plans, and then so that they can save time, effort, and money. We also provide a lot of free tools, which allows customers to really see, do a lot of deep, fact finding about the savings that they can make, or more benefits they can get for the kind of money that they spend on a regular basis. And also we have a community, a first of its kind for telecom users. So as a brand, we want to be a telecom user's best friend. There's a lot of complexity and confusion in several aspects of the telecom market. Worldwide, the number one customer need, of mobile or telecom users is simplification of the buying experience. So that's what we want to fix. Our business model is very simple. We pass on all of our leads to channel partners and the telecom operators in the UAE. Also we have an advertising revenue stream as well. Ramesh, you had one more part, a question there.
How did you come up with the idea in the first place?
I see. So, like I mentioned, the number one need of telecom users worldwide, and this is an established fact, is simplification of the buying experience. Just to give you some data points, how fractured the buying experience is. About 80% of customers we've surveyed in the region believe that they are on the wrong plan and it hurts their pockets. About the worldwide average for data that is actually consumed, it's about 60%. So 40% of all the data that customers have in their accounts on their mobile lines actually goes unutilized. There's about 33% of customers who actually use up all the data. All of the rest are either using above or below. Then there is this whole new thing in the digital world, which is about customers really want to research online before they purchase anything offline. In the US, for example, there's about 65% of customers in several different sectors who do research online before they purchase offline. But in the region, in our survey, we found that 90% of customers want to research online. They do research online before they buy anything offline. But in the telecom world, there's no one site, or there's not enough content for them to research. So several, and then another interesting aspect is the number of rate plans and promotions that are unleashed in the market, in every telecom market, not just in the UAE or the Middle East, but globally. It's so overwhelming for customers that they just give up. It's very difficult to follow. So in summary, we just, we simplify the buying experience through comparison engines in our marketplace. We want to be telecom users' best friend, and we occupy the space very much needed between telecom operators and customers. So that's what we are.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Shubhra, for keeping it nice and short and sweet and pointed. Would Matthew like to take the same set of questions about your startup, Logicai? You're muted, Matthew.
Yeah, sorry.
Great. Go ahead.
Thank you, IBPC, and Rameshji for moderating this event. Of course, for me, it was a turning point. You know, I was with DHL Dancers for almost 26 years, and my plan was to retire after 2-3 years. But, you know, we planned something, and if God has a different plan, you know, it goes as per God's plan. So what has happened was my country manager was supposed to be a panel speaker for one of the conclave on the maturity level of digital transformation in supply chain. This was conducted by the one of the management institutes in Dubai. So what has happened is he was unable to go, and he nominated me to participate into this event. So since it was digital transformation, I had to spend a lot of time to understand and learn the basics of digital transformation, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, etc., which has triggered, you know, my brain. You know, it reactivated the brain. So the panel session went very well, and then after that, I got an invitation for a one-day training session or coaching session on artificial intelligence, where the turning point happened when the coach during the training session was asking us to link the real-time, real-life problems what we are facing in the office and see how you can come out with digital solutions to solve these problems. So I was thinking, what is there in finance? Because at that time we were actually implementing the Oracle Financial, the cloud-based Oracle Financials, which is based on the best global practices. So I thought, you know, what else? Now we are not going to invest anything more into finance-related technology. Then I thought, why not I look at some of the major problems in the logistics side? And even though I was in finance, I was spending a lot of time to deep dive or assist the team in, you know, the procurement RFQs from the major customers, whether it is for warehousing, distribution, or freight forwarding. And I know the major problems, and immediately it came to my mind, you know, one of the major RFQs, we call it the notorious RFQ, from one of the top e-commerce companies in the world. And normally, you know, before submission of the rate, we are supposed to have a 1-hour review session. And I started at 2:30 and I left at 9:30 in the night. And I was so upset, believe me. So this was triggering my mind, you know, why don't I spend some time to come out with a digital solution to simplify this? And, you know, international trade is the lifeline for global trade. So, you know, every country has to do imports and exports. And this problem, what is there in the logistics procurement, this is a problem worldwide, whether it is a small trader sitting in the NASA Square or
Matthew, if I may, what is your business model?
Okay, so what we do is we connect the importers, exporters worldwide with the logistics service providers and cargo insurance companies. So if an importer exporter has a shipment, they don't have to send emails to 10 or 15 different logistics companies, get the rates in all different formats, non-comparable. It takes anything from, say, 3 days to 7 days to get the rates. We give them the rates in less than 30 seconds. Irrespective of the moving shipments through different forwarders, they can get the visibility of all the shipments under one platform. So this is what we are doing.
And how do you earn your revenues, Matthew?
Okay.
By providing the
so
service?
Basically, you know,
where does it fit in?
Yeah. So of course, it's a startup. We need to acquire our customers very fast. So we have some freemiums in the beginning, but our revenue comes from the license fee, what we charge to the customers and suppliers. And also there is a platform fee. We call it a transaction fee that is coming in. So this is our revenue model. Good thing is our major cost is almost fixed. So with an increase in customers, with the global expansion and with the additional products that we are launching, you know, your revenue stream and the GP margin will be very, very high. And in our model, in our ecosystem, we have a total of 11 different digital solutions that we plan to launch over the next 2
We'll
years.
come to that in a minute. We'll come to the product in a minute. Let me move over to Mazen and Rana. Which of you would like to take this as to what your tech startup does, what your business model is, how you earn your revenues, and how did you come out with the idea in the first place?
I'll let Mazen go. He speaks faster.
And but sometimes more. So Eduployment is, as Ramesh mentioned, and first of all, let me back up and thank you again for having us on this panel. So Eduployment is a tech startup that's a purpose-driven business with the mission of helping to eradicate poverty by educating and employing the underprivileged. Essentially, we are a global platform for blue-collar workers recruitment. The purpose and the mission comes in the fact that we engage all the blue-collar workers in their home countries in their native vernacular, so not just in Hindi, but Gujarat and Malayalam, etc. Onboard them onto the platform, teach them English on our platform, completely online, demonstrable, backed up by standardized testing, etc. Teach them English, match them with jobs for which they qualify for, and then they can start, go through the application process, interviews, etc., until they are placed. In exchange, we charge them $1.50 subscription per month, a very nominal fee compared to what they would traditionally pay to, the traditional recruiting agencies. And then on the employer side, it's a pretty compelling value proposition, we believe, because it's, again, an online platform. The employers get on, post the jobs with the specific requirements that they have, and only the applicants who match their requirements are notified immediately and can apply for the job, and the whole thing carries forward. And then we charge them a nominal subscription, or placement fee, for which the employer themselves can choose at what level they want to pay. They choose how much they want to pay, because what they pay, we give back to that specific candidate that they've hired in the form of additional subscriptions to the platform that the candidate can share with their friends and family, thereby magnifying the uplift impact of our business model. And the reason we've done all of this is based on our research. Is we know that for a lot of these individuals that are in the underprivileged population, they're trapped in economies with limited job opportunities, and their best chance to break out of poverty is to get employment abroad, where they can earn 3 to 4 times more what they can do domestically. However, they lack the access to these jobs. They lack the English language skills, which unlock a lifetime of employment and empowerment for them. And these are the challenges that we solve with our platform. In terms of inspiration, it's a very long backstory, but the short end of it is we're attending an event. As you mentioned, we're part of the Entrepreneurs Organization. We had a regional event. We're sitting in the audience listening to a number of international speakers, and one of them spoke about this concept of purpose, whereas you can actually have a business that solves a world problem and generates profit, and that these things are not mutually exclusive. We thought somebody invented water in front of us. We thought the traditional model is you build your business, you generate profits, you create a foundation and do your philanthropy that way. So we're very intrigued by this idea, and had a moment where I said to Rana, who was with me, we need to figure out our purpose, because if it's something that comes from within us, I believe we could be unstoppable. And later in the afternoon, another speaker was a Nigerian prince who happened to be the central bank governor at some point, and was speaking about Nigeria, a country we know exists, but not a lot about. And he talked about how they have a 200 million population and somewhere north of 80% poverty, which we found was astounding. So literally later that evening, the two thoughts collided, and the inspiration for Eduployment came about. And given that we are lifelong learners ourselves, and whatever measure of success we've managed to achieve in our life is all directly linked to our education. This is where our purpose emanates from. So I'll leave it at that, and we can fill in some more as we go on.
Great stuff. Sense of purpose and lifelong learners. Two thoughts collided. Oh my God, that's a lot to take in. Thank you. Thank you also to Shubhra and to Matthew. It must take a lot of courage for you to quit a well-paying job, and evidently you are in the C-suite in your respective organizations, and to dive headlong into what is best described as uncertainty. A great promise, but laced with uncertainty. I myself have done it, and therefore I know what I'm talking about. And as for you, Mazen and Rana, you were already businessmen, so there was no quit my job decision to make. Your observation of the market and your being able to carve out something with a social purpose is highly, highly lauded. Now let me go on to something else that, having started now, you would have defined what success is for your respective organizations. You would have also figured out how to define and measure it. And then you would also planned as to what the end game of your initiatives or end game of your initiative respectively is. Yeah. So let me start this off with Shubhra again this time. Yeah. What is success? How do you define it? How do you measure it? And what's the end game, Shubhra? You're muted.
Muting, yeah. So for us at Aladdin, telecom sits at the gateway of today's digital life, your digital world and your digital experiences. So it is how customers manage the telecom services is, I think, a big deal if they have to enjoy the kind of digital experience that they kind of want to enjoy. So far, that whole space of managing the telecom services in terms of the plans, the services, the choice of operators, the choice of multiple different kinds of technologies that keep coming in with regularity. So this whole space is something that has not been attended to. One reason is, of course, telecom sectors are, of course, very regulated, and operators have great infrastructure. They build a lot of, they spend a lot of money on the latest technologies, etc. But the customer experience part of it is something that needs a significant uplift, particularly if customers expect the kind of experiences that the over-the-top players from Silicon Valley provide, that level of experience. So success for us would mean that we are making a meaningful difference for customers by making that whole process of managing the telecom services very simple, very easy. Just leave it to us. We provide all the automated tools. You don't have to spend too much time. The whole marketplace idea for us is not a new thing. So meaning, we are like the, if you will, the booking.com or the hotels.com of the telecom industry. So marketplace idea is nothing revolutionary.
True, but when would you like to consider yourself successful with this?
So to basically our whole sense of success would be when we start, unleashing several innovations in this domain, and not just about delivering on our business plans, but one of the overriding end game, that kind of enthuses all of us and keeps us, very motivated, is finally to make telecom services effectively self-funded, meaning subsidized, or kind of, how do you make telecom services free for customers by channeling money and funds from other sectors. So one of the things that we're going to unveil very soon is a series of steps in kind of a roadmap, innovation roadmap that we have. And so our sense of success would be basically to be seen as a cradle of innovation.
Very well, very well. So free telecom services, that sounds like a very laudable yet lofty ideal. Mm-hmm. We'll park that and come back to you for more in a few minutes. Yeah. Now let me revert to Matthew as to what do you define as success for Logisci? Do you have a metric? Do you have a means of measuring it? And what do you plan to do when you have achieved it? What's your end game?
Okay. So,
and by the way, we're doing well for time. Yeah. Let's continue at the same pace. Thank you.
Okay. So for us, we are solving a decade-old problem for the world. It's not a local problem. And with our series of digital solutions over the next 2 years, we want to make a difference in this world. So we want the way things are done, currently for so many years, we want to change that. With that, we want to give really life to the people, because the people in the logistics industry, they are one of the most frustrated people, whether it is from the supplier side or from the customer side. Actually, initially, we were looking at giving the name as Logi Life, give life to logistics. So then, of course, with the digital thing, etc., we come out with this. So we want to change the way it is done. And for me, success is when we are able to change the way things are done. Of course, it is impossible to get the change done throughout the world. But look at how the tickets were handled through your manual tickets of IATA in the past versus how you are doing the online tickets now, or how you are buying the groceries now through your e-commerce platform compared to you were going to the departmental stores. So if we are able to achieve this change over the next 2 years, 3 years, we say we are successful. And with this process, we have inbuilt electronic document management for completing, because logistics industry is something which is handling so much of manual documentation. So if we save that, we will be able to save millions of trees every year globally. That will release, I think, a lot of oxygen to this world. So we plan to achieve these two. Now, in terms of the end game, of course, this is, the technology, what we are coming out with. This is going to be a cash cow. There is no doubt about it. So what our plan is that, say in 3 to 4 years time, we should come out with an IPO wherein our initial investors, they should be able to make a few multiples of their revenue by diluting maybe part of their investment, and then continue to milk the cash cow and make their profit for their life. So this is what we are looking at, because we are so confident that once all our solutions are in, the profitability will be skyrocketing, because the global customer base, the type of customers, and international trade is not going to stop. It has to move. So hope is always there. So
great,
win-win for all the parties.
Thank you, Matthew. So in addition to transporting the goods and goods for customers, you're going to transport investors to a more profitable zone, looks like. Yeah. Thank you. That's very appealing. Can I turn over to Mazen and Rana to take on the same questions of what success would look like and how you would define it, how you would measure it, and where you see the end game lying for you? Who would like to take this?
I'll take this one. Being an impact-driven business, also, we have many KPIs in addition to looking at the revenue and also how much profit we're making. But our main focus is that we've got two main KPIs that we're looking at for 2024. So the first one would be actually employing 342,000 people. That's impacting and uplifting 7.6 million people by 2024. So those are our main focus. In addition to many other things like creating a community where a community of employers and employees looking for actually decent work and making a pledge to provide decent work and safe environments at fair pay.
Very well, thank you. That's a very noble objective. And one common feature to the audience, I would say one common feature among all of them, all three startups, is that they believe in scaling up. They believe in the law of large numbers. And now I'm going to turn you over to a visual question. Just bear with me a second, and meanwhile, let me ask you a different question from my list. So where in the company's life cycle do you see yourselves? Shubhra, would you like to take this?
Sure, Ramesh.
Let me put up something on the screen so that you can respond with there is a window that's invalid. I'm not sure why. Where in the company's life cycle? I mean, when you know that a company's life cycle is a startup life cycle is growing from a pre-seed stage to all the way to the Series F stage, if you will. Where in the life cycle are you currently?
We're currently in the Series A stage. We just raised funding, a pre-Series A funding in December, and currently we're still in beta stage, but we've seen significant traction this month. This month we started our campaigns, and we've seen huge traffic, surges in traffic, surges in orders through our platform that makes us extremely excited. So we're chasing in your slide would be the Series A part from 11 to 18. That's what we're working on currently.
Great. So for the benefit of the audience, I came up with a framework by studying hundreds of tech startups. And this framework will help us place these 3 startups in their journey from startup to becoming established companies. So Shubhra, you're saying you're somewhere between step 11 and 18, which is the Series A stage currently.
Correct.
Very well. Let's go over to Matthew. Matthew, where do you position yourself in this long train of milestones?
Okay. So we just released our pilot run for the product, the first product, and we have another product getting released during the next month, which is our bidding platform. Over the last 3 weeks, we got almost 156 customers already registered into the platform, and the suppliers are already in the platform. So our revenue stream has just started. So currently, I will say we are at the pre-Series A to Series A stage. So currently what we have done so far is we had angel investors and friends and families to the extent of close to 6.5 million dirhams. We got the investment. And currently we are looking for a pre-Series A of $3 million. So this is mainly for the purpose of our additional investment into the new technology, additional development of the applications, digital solutions, also the marketing expenses. So these are the major 2 costs that are coming up. So
excellent. So it looks like both of you you're having your products in place and your revenues have just started clicking in place. Yeah, lovely. Let's check with Eduployment's state of play here, Mazen and Dana.
Sure. From a tech, I guess if we look at this framework, we would be in that seed angel funding stage. Although from a kind of product roadmap and development, we are into some of those, achieving some of those milestones under Series A. So our product has been in the market now for a month and a half for the candidates. We've launched the first version and its own marketing campaign, and the traction that's achieved is quite impressive, actually far exceeded our plans. So very reassured, and the market fit is there, validation with employers. So we are in quite an exciting moment in the trajectory of the business, because it's the validation of the business model is there now. Just a matter of getting the piece, the balance of the tech platform into the market, which will happen in the July timeframe. So in that stage, seed stage.
Mabruk Ali, so you are somewhere around number 10, yeah? Towards the fag end of the early product development stage.
Yeah, right now
so seed angel funding stage.
Just a matter of time and securing the additional funding. So we're in the middle of a raise and have some already angel investors, etc., and more pipeline. And we roll forward, but it's quite
Very
exciting times.
Very well. Thank you. And the audience, any member of the audience, if you need a copy of this framework, I'm very happy to share it with you. Please just send me your email address or send your request to Sibi, and I'll be happy to share this with you. Yeah. Let's go over to our questions. The very important and interesting factor in startups is the factor of funding it. How did you raise capital and funding? Did you struggle? Let me start with Matthew this time. How did you raise capital and funding? Did you struggle? And what are your comments on the sources of venture capital in this region? What are they and what should they be?
See, there is a lot of liquidity in the market. So long as your product is good and has got a lot of growth potential, they are keen to invest. Now, only one thing is, they are a little bit hesitant on pre-revenue stage, but there are a lot of investors available. Now, for us, we approached our friends and families and a few of the angel investors. And at this stage, we managed to get funding of almost 6.5 million dirhams. That's not a joke, in addition to what the founders and co-founders put forward. So that's a sizable amount, but opportunities are there. And there are a lot of venture capitalists and high net worth individuals who are, sitting on, I will say, tons of funds.
Excellent.
And they are looking for opportunities. And especially, with COVID, they know the potential for digital solutions. And there is a huge buy-in. Of course, COVID is bad for the world, but, it spread virus, but at the same time, it spread awareness on the use of digital solutions, which is somewhat positive. And there are a lot of investors keen on technology startups.
Super. Yep. And might I add that you have come to the right forum in terms of the members of the forum itself being able to mentor you and to arrange for investor meets, if you deem it fit. Yeah. Yep. And that goes to Shubhra and to Mazen and Rana as well. Yeah, so IBPC is the #1 business council for the Indians and the largest among business councils as business councils go in Dubai. And so we would rightfully, I think, stake a claim in the stuff that I'm talking about. Let's see what Shubhra's plans on funding are. What funding have you done so far? And how much of a struggle, if any, was it? And what do you think about the VC culture or movement in the region, Shubhra?
Yeah, so we started off, we've done 2 rounds, a seed round and a pre-series A. I wouldn't say there was a lot of difficulty in raising the money. I think if the fundamentals are strong, I think if the whole story is anchored in the numbers and the value drivers, I think then it's easier. I think there's a lot of appetite for digital ventures now, especially since March last year after the pandemic struck. And so we look forward to raising a next round coming up very soon. Let's see how it goes. Very optimistic.
Super. Thank you. And let me turn the same question over to Mazen and Rana. What's your funding story been so far, given that you are a little earlier in the stage?
Yeah, funding for us, we're basically bootstrapped, throughout the process, as well as brought in a couple of angel investors that have been very supportive and helped us get to this stage. And so that's where we're at. I think I'd like to answer the second part of the question differently, maybe from my fellow panelists. I think fundraising is always a challenge. I think regardless of how mature your business is, it's a grueling process, and it's something that you have to be quite focused on. I think at the earlier the stage of the business, and especially in this region where there is a lot of liquidity, there is a lot of activity. However, there's a number of dynamics that are interesting. So when you're in that pre-revenue stage, you're in that angel space, which is quite disorganized, and a lot of the institutional investors are risk averse to that. Even the ones that might publicly state that they invest in those early stages, the reality when you connect with them and pitch is that No, we want to be, post-product, post-revenue. We want to see traction. We want to see all this stuff.
They're trying to calculate the valuation as well.
Right.
So it's difficult when you're pre-revenue.
So it's interesting. And then for us, because we are a purpose-driven impact business, we've been very selective in terms of the type of investors we're looking for. So we're looking for impact-driven investors because our business model is driven by that. While we are a highly profitable business model, okay, we are not looking for investors that are just focused on the multiple and the exit. We're looking for investors that want to make money, just like we would love to, but are more focused on how much of an impact we can do. So we do things, for example, where we're allocating 2.5% of our revenues, not profits, to our own scholarship fund, where any candidate that gets placed in a job through Eduployment can come back and apply for that scholarship. And if they get it, we will pay for one of their children's full university tuition, whether it's a 4-year program or 5-year program. So we want to make sure that our investors that are on board believe in the purpose that we're after. So if one day we achieve our profitability objectives, inshallah, and we want to increase that to 5%, that the whole board and shareholders would be aligned on that. So that puts a different twist on it. When you're raising funds for an impact-driven business, you're looking for those impact investors, which, while ironically the region is very much driven, whether it's because of cultural or religious roots, towards philanthropy and giving and supporting, the impact investment space is still nascent in the region and relatively unorganized. There's a lot of great efforts starting now, and hopefully we'll see more of that.
At the risk of sounding vulnerable, but I'll just give you a little bit of an insight to what happens in our life as entrepreneurs and founders of a startup. So there are many times where we have some really good meetings with some potential investors, and at the end of the meeting, on our way home, before we go into the house, we look at each other and say, now, if that entity gave us a check, would we accept it? And there are many times where we've said no. Because they don't believe in the purpose of the company.
That must take a strong gut, I would think.
Oh, yes.
to turn away money from investors.
Yes.
But well done. I mean, the thought and the spirit gives me goosebumps, I should say.
Hence the title, Chief Purpose Officer. I think everyone needs one. We need to remember what the intent was and what brought us here to start this company. Yes.
Right.
Phenomenal.
Ramesh, if I can add,
please.
Just something I wanted to mention in passing. For us, it was easier in the seed round. We actually got somebody from the industry, from the telecom industry, a big name. It was the former CEO of Do. Was there for almost 15 years, founding CEO. So he made a decision in an instant, and that's how we got our seed funding. And then the pre-Series A, again, we were able to tap into another big name, also from the telecom industry, somebody who has done spectacular work and turned a VC after exiting his venture. And this particular fund, backed by this well-known entrepreneur, launched a technology platform that currently helps 90 telecom operators worldwide to manage about 2 billion mobile users. This particular gentleman, with his fund, stepped in Q4 last year. So in our case, both were from the industry. They had an understanding of the dynamics of the industry, so it's much easier so far. And now I guess our traction and our story that we kind of encapsulated in numbers will have to do its work when we go out to different kinds of investors.
Very well. Are you at liberty to tell us who this person might be, or is it under an NDA?
No, I think the pre-Series A was funded by One Media Tech, a fund that was set up by Siamak Sarbaz, who's a entrepreneur from the UK, well-known tech entrepreneur. He set up his company called MyCom back in the late 90s. And most major telco operators worldwide use MyCom to manage their customer base. So Siamak Sarbaz stepped in, and he's on our board as well. And is helping us roll it out across multiple countries.
Very well. Dear panelists, I have a zillion questions. The audience questions have started pouring in. I'll just have one last question before I throw it open to the audience's questions. Starting with Madam Rana, what would your one most important piece of advice be to every budding tech entrepreneur in our audience today?
Okay. One answer, but it's three prongs. So first is celebrate the small wins. It fuels you along the journey. The second one is beware of the big wins because it can inflate your ego. And that's not a good thing when you're trying to do a startup and build a company. And I think the third one would be, don't forget the purpose. And the way to do that is renew your intention every day, because the purpose is the reason you started what the company that you decided to build.
That is so evangelical. Thank you so much. I think it's really loaded with meaning. We need to decode this after this event. Chew the cud, as they say. Yeah. What would Matthew's take on this question be? Your one most important piece of advice.
Okay. So when you start with a startup, be prepared to face failures and learn from the failures. And rather than just listening to success stories, you should listen to the failure stories of different startups so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. So that will be my one advice. And then, especially in terms of the technology, tech startups, don't wait for the launch of the foolproof solution. Try to release your MVP into the market and then come out with the additional features, because you will be spending a lot of time to have the perfect product, and by the time somebody else will be coming into the market. So try to release at the earliest possible and then improve.
Spoken like a been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, Matthew. Thank you. That's very valuable advice. What is Shubhra's take on this, please, for our budding entrepreneurs?
So there's so much of risk taking and risk management going on all the time, and every day can seem to be a crisis. Every day you kind of witness crisis and you have to face them. Two things I think very important for the resilience and the tenacity that entrepreneurs need to have to be mentally strong and to be spiritually strong as well. I think those two I've found. One is once you walk, the path appears. And then the other would be the obstacles is the path. They are not barriers, they are the path. So I guess, that kind of gives a lot of reinforcement in terms of, mental and spiritual grounding, I guess. And
wow,
keeps you
sagely, once you walk, the path appears. It sounds like a Chinese proverb that I learned, which is, or Russian, is it? Once the student is ready, the teacher appears. Indeed. Well said. From the practical to the philosophical, we have all the answers for budding entrepreneurs. Now, let me turn over to the questions. And guess who the first question is from? From my better half. What does she say? Jaya says, your startups must be requiring you to spend huge amounts of time considering the attention it might require. What's the role of your better half in this journey? Participative actively or support passively? The question is not for the couple, for obvious reasons, nor the moderator, oh, that's me, as I know what their answer is. It's for Shubhra and Matthew. Shubhra, stay on for this question, please.
Yeah, I think full support, and I've been lucky that way. Whole family's kind of given me enormous amount of space and the time to accomplish this. Switching from a full corporate role to an entrepreneur's role, especially in the beginning, can be difficult. But I think once you have, the kind of an agreement and the kind of support, I think it means a lot. Has a big bearing on success.
Thank you. Mr. Matthew? Your answer, sir?
Yep. So for me, a happy wife is very, very important for a happy life. So we have a very, very good understanding over these years. Of course, I know her 7 years before the marriage. So, we have a very good understanding. And in terms of the business, she don't get involved into the day-to-day activities. But one thing what we have done is, I have a habit of spending 2 to 3 hours on a Saturday where it is not a working day. So I come to finish some of the backlogs. So most of the Saturdays, I bring her along with me so that I get a peaceful time to sit with her, discuss with her, give her some updates, what is happening. She is happy. So she get upset when I don't give her an update, what's happening. So I keep that momentum going on, and then, followed up that with some good biryani in the afternoon. She's a very happy wife, and it goes well.
Okay, so you're in the business of bribing, we can see. We'll take that on board. That's all right. Question from our member, Mr. Shailendra Kaushik. I suppose this question has been asked in some different manner, but I'll read the question out nonetheless. Every startup also has a failure history, challenges and limitations, and founders learn from them. What are the key lessons for future entrepreneurs? I've already asked this question, and so we will take that answer to do duty for this question. Another question that has been asked by two persons. One is a guest, Mr. Shivaramakrishnan, and another is a member, Mr. Gary Wabi. The articulation of the question is, my question to all is, what happens if the project is successful and moves towards first and last closing? What is the process of assurance that investor gets a reasonable return as agreed or higher? In other words, if the project is successful, what is the assurance that the investor will get the benefit from it and that it's not leaked away? I hope I'm right in understanding the question. Yeah. So where should we begin? Let's ask Matthew, since you're on, stay on to answer this question.
So it all depends upon the investor, whether he is doing a funding as a debt fund or as an equity fund. So if he's an equity investor, naturally, with the growth of the company and success of the company, the reward goes to them in proportion to whatever is their investment. Now, unfortunately, if they are going for a debt fund, their revenue return stream is fixed. So I will say when the potential is huge and it's a cash cow, look for the opportunity. Don't look for the immediate return in a year or two. Look for the multiple returns coming up over the next 3 to 5 years. And where you get an opportunity to divest part of the investment and make, 3-4 times of your initial investment, keep it aside and look for other opportunities and leave balance of that. And as I said earlier, continue to milk the cow, and it's free income for you.
Very well. Thank you. What does Shubhra think on this?
Yeah, I think the concern I thought that was in the question is about the possibility of leakage. And I guess, is that right? I think I read it that way.
So if in the event the venture is profitable, what do the investors do? Can the investors, equity investors, expect that the returns will flow to them, or will there be blockages in between, leakages in between?
Yeah, I think leakages, is something obviously, very difficult for any right-thinking or right-minded venture to kind of even think about, because of the enormous amount of goodwill and brand equity that's built that'll get seriously damaged. So I don't think there's any intention on the part of the venture or the founders. If it's a question of how do the proceeds flow into the investors, I think there are many different ways of structuring those upfront. And even I think it's also the relationship and the kind of way that the founders and the investors approach any venture. I think it also depends on the kind of meeting of minds. Any venture, obviously, until it's fully self-funded, would need recourse to a lot of funding. And so I don't think it's any right-minded founder would want to burn bridges with anybody.
Indeed, there's an integrity question there. Obviously, it's from a seasoned investor asking this question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And what would Mazin's take on this be?
I would agree with Subra. I mean, I think leakage, in a properly structured business, there's enough legal framework in place that is not a major concern, and obviously reputational damage and would be massive compared to any potential short-term financial gain. But I understood the question slightly differently, which is more of a assurances on returns, and I think I just want to spotlight that and say in this space of investing in whether it's tech or any kind of other venture, I think the word assurances and investment don't go hand in hand. Okay,
obviously.
Right?
No, actually, so Mazin, the question started with the premise that what happens if the project is successful and moves towards. So the question presupposes success, and then wants to make sure that the person asking wants to make sure that the returns will flow to him and not get blocked on the way. No, thank you very much. This is a serious integrity question, a very vital ingredient in any startup, any tech startup for that matter, any startup. Next question goes to Shubhra in particular. What is the competition scene now and in future? Where do you see it?
Currently in the region, there are no marketplaces for telecom services. So we're the first ones, but we would see more players may move in, and we'd obviously want to erect our entry barriers and distance, create a distance between us and anybody else who may want to follow. But we are also in the marketplace side, and in our own thinking and in our vision, we believe that marketplaces of the future should be able to provide solutions to customers, solutions that enable customers to find new sources of funding their purchases. So in a way, we're trying to create a new category because even though we're talking about one marketplace, which is telecom, we in fact are creating two other marketplaces, which would kind of help telecom users in significant ways. So some of these announcements are going to come. So of course there would be followers. But we want to keep the distance, and let's see, meaning, what kind of competition we come. Of course, there will be competition, and we're kind of preparing ourselves and raising the entry barriers as we speak.
Yeah.
To answer the question.
Thank you. Yeah, I think broadly, yes. So here's a question. Let me turn this to Mazin. How do you manage imitation? Says our member O'Neill Dacuna, intentional or accidental imitation. So wannabes or Me Too's.
Yes, and I think the first thing that comes to mind is that whole saying, imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So one of the things that we've learned, having been in the entrepreneurial space over the last 12 plus years, is that to embrace competition. Right? In the early days of our entrepreneurship journey, competitor would enter the market and your heart rate goes up and you worry about, your revenues. And then you learn through experience that competition makes you better, right? It keeps you sharper, makes sure your value proposition is spot on and that you and the team are executing flawlessly on what you're doing. So, it might be, unique to kind of our perspective, but we always look at competition as great. It's we need to track them, understand what they're doing, how do we differentiate ourselves against them, and just focus on our game, focus on our execution, and let the market be the arbiter of who should be the winner. Now, uniquely with Eduployment, for us, the concept of competition is almost an oxymoron because of the purpose that we're hoping to achieve. If other competitors enter the same space in the same way and value proposition that we're bringing forward, great. If they can manage to uplift 100,000 people and we can do another 100,000, we've collectively achieved a higher purpose. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's an additive game for us in this impact-driven business aspect.
Great answer. Thank you. And can I get Matthews on this, please? Competition, imitation, me too's.
Okay.
How do you plan to thwart those or handle those?
See, we have certain applications what we use to find out what is happening in the market, in the world with the competition, because we are not just looking at this region. So, even though we started our pilot run with this region, we need to go to the world and we need to see what is happening around the world. And good thing here is there are not many competitors currently present. So, we will get an edge once we go to the market. Now, keep your eyes and ears open all the time and understand what is happening. And in your product, you have to have an edge. So what the competition don't have, look at that. And, depending upon the changing market scenario, whatever additional features you can bring in, you should be the first one to bring that into the market and, get the buy-in from the customers. So this will be the approach from our side.
Very well. Thank you. And Matthew, there's another question from the audience. Mr. Narayan writes, who are these angel investors? Where do they belong? Are they from the UAE or from Pan Global?
This is mainly from UAE, what we have. Unfortunately, with India, we don't want to disclose the names. We have it currently from UAE. And we have an interest from US, which is for $1 million dirhams investment. We are in the final stage of discussions on that.
Inshallah. The same gentleman, Mr. Narayan, asks Matthew again, how did you go through your valuation exercise? Particularly, how do you bridge the valuation differences between you and the investor?
Okay, so what we have done is we got two approaches. One is we got a valuation done, and based on the valuation, there is something called a COVID discount. So we offered almost like a 40% discount on the valuation what we had, and most of them agreed to that. And then there are a few investors where they are, agreeing for a convertible because, especially when it was on a pre-revenue stage, it was not very easy. So we agreed with them that, once we have the major investor for the pre-series A coming in for the $3 million, whatever is the valuation we are going to agree with them, they will get a discount on that. And they are quite comfortable with that approach.
Very well. Folks, I'm conscious we're running beyond our allotted hour. It looks like members of the audience are enjoying it from the questions and from the comments I'm getting. So if any of you would need to be elsewhere, please do feel free to pop off and go ahead with your other programs. But those who are enjoying it, you're jolly well welcome to continue. I for sure am enjoying this. Yeah, and I hope our panelists are too.
Yes.
And now that they've confirmed they're enjoying it, let me place them on the mat a bit. We have a question on the board that asks, and this is from Gary again. Gee, he's put you on the mat there. How much of your skin is in the game, promoters, founders? How much skin do you have in the game? Sorry, I preempted your answer. Go ahead.
So I guess significant skin in the game from all aspects, stake in the company to, staying invested and, not chasing anything else where, opportunity costs, considering other opportunity costs. So I would say in our case is significant, meaning I founded this with another co-founder, seasoned, tech entrepreneur with 2 exits. And we have significant skin in the game. I think that's
very well. And Matthew, can you pitch in with your position?
I will say, when you are talking about the advice to the budding entrepreneurs, I want to say that, if you are going for a startup, get ready. You have to really spend time and money if you have to bring up your startup. Don't think that it's a cakewalk. There are a lot of challenges, and be ready to face all the challenges. So whether it is in terms of the time that you are spending, the money that you are spending for the organization, and sometimes the sleepless nights, you have to be focused. The initial stage, it's like the what you call infant care stage. So until you reach that particular stage, get ready. And once the engine starts moving, so long as you have the monitoring tools in place to see that it is progressing as planned, and you get the trigger where if it is going anywhere wrong, it will go. But until that time, get ready. Put your money that you take more ownership, because I don't like, sorry, Ramesh, I don't like, to manage a startup on third party's money and do whatever I want. I don't want to do that approach. That's why almost 50% of the investment is in terms of the fund itself. I put it my hard-earned money. So I know how important it is to make the startup successful. And seeing that energy, wherever I approached my friends and families and few of the angel investors, they were very happy to join it. And the progress what we have achieved over the last 1.5 years, it's unbelievable. So I am very, very
Matthew,
confident.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It looks like there's skin and bones too in this.
Yes.
For you, huh? Okay. Let's find out how much Mazen and Rana have committed themselves financially into this venture.
I think
as yet.
I think everything, maybe,
and then some.
Yeah. It's like those country music songs where the singer's saying he had to sell his car, he said he had to sell his house. I think maybe now we have a dog left that maybe if anyone's interested.
Yeah. If you would like a dog, I can give you a good deal. I think we have all the skin, bones, and internal organs already into this. I mean, we've been building this Eduployment for close to 1.5 years. Obviously, I was going to say, I summarize it. It's a roller coaster ride. I think Matthew was just talking about, be ready. It's like being on a roller coaster, right? There's ups and downs, and sometimes you get slammed to the right and left, and sometimes you're super exhilarated, and then you crash. And there's a whole bunch of that. So we've bootstrapped the business to date. We have a couple of investors now. We've put in equal to or more in terms of cash. And then if you start looking at time put in and opportunity cost, it far exceeds anything anybody else has put in.
Wonderful. Great question, Gary. My most important takeaway from your responses is, number one, that you managed to retain the smile on your face, all of you. And number two, your hope is higher than ever. It's not one bit dented or damaged by whatever rocky road you've been traveling on. So keep it up, everybody. And budding entrepreneurs, please take note.
If I may, there's also a entrepreneur startup look. If you look at Subra, you look at us, we're working 24/7, right? We're playing with lights and cameras here to look nice and fresh, and we're there. But there's this ghost-like look that we all develop that comes from being constantly on. I'm sure Subra can relate.
Very true.
Just agree with that. Keep going. More coffee.
Take heed. It'll all soon be over. But here is a very warm, heartwarming question, or rather comment, I should say, from our member Surinder Sareen. He says, we're placed in a situation where funds are available, but not good startup opportunities. Please suggest a few opportunities one can consider. Well, Surinder, I've put 3 across for you. Not 1, 3. And take a look. Examine them. As they always say, the statutory warning is on the pack. Yeah, invest after keeping your eyes and ears open, but go ahead. And if you want more, check out with us in my professional practice. Couldn't help pitching that in, throwing that in. Yeah, but seriously, I'm happy to connect any one of the entrepreneurs or all of them to you, Surinder. Feel welcome. We have another question from a guest, R.S. Moni. what are the established mentoring systems for startups in the UAE? Mazen, Rana, would you like to take this? Have you come across any, and what have they been?
Sure.
Have they been useful or what?
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, I think Dubai and the UAE in general have become, the mecca for startups, especially tech startups. I think you led with that at the top of the program. There's a whole number of incubators and accelerators. We have been privileged enough as Eduployment to be accepted into a premier social impact-driven accelerator program called Companies Creating Change, or C3. Fantastic program that we've gone through. Out of 1,000 applicants, we're one of the 42 semifinalists, and now we're one of the 24 finalists in that. There's plenty out there for the taking. If somebody's interested, there's plenty of mentorship programs. There's a lot of successful entrepreneurs who are also happy to mentor individually. So there's plenty of resources, and if anybody would like some guidance, happy to connect with them and point them in the right direction, depending on what stage they're at and what kind of help they're looking for. There's different verticals within that space.
Very well, very well. No, thank you for that very generous offer, Mazen and Rana. Has Subra come across any that you would like to talk about?
Ramesh, there's so many here in the UAE and the region. Meaning aware of several, but haven't really sought out any kind of service so far for ourselves. But yeah, meaning if anybody wants details of the ones we know about, definitely in a position to help.
Thank you. And Matthews, have you resorted to the help of any of these mentors, incubators, accelerators, whoever?
Not actually. We initially applied for a few, but that was very, very early stage. So they told us to approach later on, but with the speed in which we progressed, we found that, whatever guidance we required, we got it through some other advisors, etc. And we progressed well. But now we will see what else we can do once we start, going to the scale up stage, if there is something else.
Very well. I'm very happy to say that I've run out of all the questions on the question board and on the chat board. Questioners would like to thank you, especially Gary says, thank all the panelists on my behalf. Appreciate their answers. And this, I suppose, he's saying on his behalf, and I would like to echo this on behalf of all the audience and all at IBPC. Thank you very much, entrepreneurs. You've actually opened many eyes by giving them a peek into your lives and into your thoughts. I do have a hand that has gone up. Greshma Mariam Mani raised a hand. Is there a question that I can divine from here? No question. Now, thank you again. Much appreciate all your answers. And I sincerely do hope that some connections come out of this both ways for you to benefit from the IBPC appreciative audience and involved membership, as well as for the IBPC members. Yeah. And look forward to having you folks on future panels, especially after you've scaled a few milestones and are able to flaunt some successes to our audience. Look, I said so on the 29th of May, 2021. Here I am, delivered. Yeah, we've arrived. And inshallah, may this be very successful. Fursa Saida to everybody. Thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, Mazen, Rana. Thank you, Matthew.
It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All the best to you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.